Pretty sure that's it.
Just giving y'all heads up. I record all my sessions for training purposes. Before we get started, don't forget, put your name, your full name in the chat box and your PDR number so y'all can receive credit. This course is through Arkansas PDR, and that's where credit will be given to, or given through. Also want to remind everybody that after today, the recording will be available, but I cannot give credit for watching a video. So just giving you heads up on that. But the resource will be available. Just try to make sure everyone gets their name and PDR number to receive credit. I hate for anybody to miss out. We'll get started when we're all ready.
Patrick, I think we are ready whenever you are.
Okay. I had it turned down, so I better turn my thing up then. All right. All right. I guess we'll go ahead and get going, and don't want to harp on that forever because that's not the purpose of our conversation today, is not making sure our name and numbers in the chat box. We're going to hit some hard topics today. Before I get started, I just want to let y'all know I don't have all the answers. I'm not really an expert in people, in everything. I just want to share some stuff that I found through some research and through an important topic I believe is happening in preschool and possibly K through 12. I don't believe this is an isolated incident or an isolated problem. Um, Obviously, with recent current events, we've been kind of, need to open our eyes a little bit of what's going on. But then again, when I was raised, we love our neighbor no matter what, and we don't have any problems with that. And we love everyone for how everybody is. But nonetheless, we still have some trends and some issues going on in education as a whole. The information for today was pulled from 3 research articles discussing kindergarten expulsion. I am going to say expulsion a lot. We're also going to look at the suspension problem as well, because in preschool, I think they're interrelated. They're not just one is happening more than the other. And then we're going to talk about a variety of, well, to be honest, uncomfortable topics. So just bear with me. To be honest, I'm a little nervous, but this is not, this is a uncomfortable topic along the way. But we're going to look at why students are being sent home, and not just why students are being sent home. Who are we kind of targeting in the classroom? What students more than likely are getting in trouble, and what students are kind of under our radar, which leads us right to the topic of implicit bias. Implicit bias is you're not trying to create a problem, but you're kind of picking boys over girls, or you're picking African American boys over white boys. You're picking a certain population, and you're not so much targeting them, but you're always kind of looking at that population for issues, problems, and concerns, especially in education as a whole, which I think that we need to be kind of not so much woken up, but maybe be aware of these concerns that'll help us as a whole. If you want to look at just the main picture we're going to talk about today, girls always fly under the radar and boys are always the hot topic. We always look for boys to create problem behaviors, but girls always slide. I can show you many classrooms where girls are actually creating more or just as much the same as the same boys and their counterparts. So we'll look a little bit of that today. I appreciate y'all being here today, and I promise I won't hold y'all forever. But we're gonna talk about this along with probably some available resources as well. Kind of give background a little bit on myself and really why I'm doing this. I've partnered with Child Care Aware to provide professional development through Arkansas PDR, because that's the audience I focus on is 3 to 5 year olds who need behavioral support.
That way it just goes back around the windows when you switch that out. Okay. Don't think about buying a house? Yeah, I'm selling my house.
Who need behavioral support and training in a lot of ways. So what better to do that? Through Zooms, through providing trainings, or providing professional development. Our classrooms get busy, so sometimes it's kind of hard to provide training in the classroom when you have so much going on, and then you add COVID restrictions on top of it. I'm also affiliated with the Department of Education. That's who my co-op is through, and we provide behavioral consultation and support. A big thing, what I focus on is what is our main issue of concern. I provide some observations so we can narrow it down to what plan we need to do. We're all located through several cooperatives throughout the state. I just have to be housed in Hope, Arkansas with Southwest Co-op. Oops. I just want to throw a little disclaimer in there. We can't fix kids and we don't have any magic potions. I think a lot of people want magic potions and quick fixes, and that's not what today is about. That's not what a lot of the behavioral services are about. What we provide is assessments and trainings to look at ways to provide prevention and provide ways to give support in many ways. But a change takes really 6 to 8 weeks. It does not happen overnight through habit change. Consultation is also provided. Like I said, direct observation is important. It gives me an idea of what's going on in the classroom, what's going on in that setting. I also review records to see what's going on. And I also, if needed, do a functional behavioral assessment. Behavioral assessment basically looks at the why the behavior is occurring. Function means why. So we're going to do an assessment to figure out why, and then we'll offer an individualized treatment plan to remedy and work on eliminating those problem behaviors. Not a magic potion there, but at least gives us a good, network on what to look for and what could work for that situation. We also provide assistance with a behavioral intervention plan as needed. Keyword is as needed. Those are for your severe problematic behaviors. Here's a list of some daycare providers I provide services for or with: public school, private daycare, Head Start centers, ABC. We even have itinerant services. Students come in certain sites and I'll go there as well as home-based and faith-based. All right, so let's kind of dive into our topic for today. Give you my sales pitch on what I do and how I do it so everyone knows I'm available. Like I said earlier, a lot of the research looks at expulsion. How many students are being expelled, how often students are being expelled. And it was funny because I was talking to my stepson. We were having a conversation about this. I was telling him what I was looking at, and he's like, well, what about suspension? People are being suspended actually more than being expelled. Well, either way you look at it, suspension and expulsion are hot topics in preschool. They're happening a lot. I really don't know the ins and outs of specifics of what measures are being used other than the simple, we're going to call mom and dad, grandpa or grandma, and we're going to suggest this is a good idea. But nonetheless, suspension and expulsion, those are some serious concerns. Those are really your last resort. K-12 uses those as last resort, but preschool uses them as first resort. And so with that being said, when our kids go to kindergarten, then they're magically cured from these problem behaviors. And that's not the case. We're going to the extreme first and then trying to decide a plan. Of course, I could be wrong, and I hope that I'm wrong. The definition of suspension, means that a student is dismissed from school for a time period that lasts 10 days or less. A suspension can be in school or out of school. Typically in preschool, it's out of school. You could maybe possibly count the office, other places on campus, because you're still in school, you're being removed from the classroom. Those also kind of increase those problem behaviors because sometimes those are more fun places to be. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. In-school suspension, ISS, usually means that a student is taken out of the classroom and put into a room designated for in-school suspension. When I was in grade school, and I've seen it when I taught in grade school, we have the infamous ISS room. Well, we don't have that in preschool, but we do have maybe a place these children are going to. Some districts allow students to work while in ISS, others just require students to sit quietly. ISS usually lasts until the end of the school day. Out of school suspension means the student is sent home and not allowed to return until a predetermined number of days have passed. Now remember, with suspension, I work in special ed, you're only given so many days. So you cannot once you maximize those days, that's a whole new can of worms right there. But nonetheless, suspension can be calling a parent and suggesting going home would be a good idea. even though you never said it, you never pushed it, but even suggesting it, that's suspension. It's not just cookie cutter, we sent Johnny home because he was doing this, or we sent Susie home because she was doing that. It is the child went home. The child went home because of a specific behavior, and whether we convinced or asked or were calling to hope that mom would or dad or whoever would remove, a suspension still took place. Expulsion is the farthest end of the stick, and I hope it's not widespread, but according to data, it is being used more in preschool than K-12. Expulsion means a student is dismissed from school for a period that lasts more than 10 days. Expulsion is always out of school. Now, depending on the seriousness of the offense, a student may be expelled for the remainder of the semester or school year. The law gives all students a right to a hearing before they're expelled from school. If your child is getting expelled, you should request a hearing. That chat thing always kind of like grabbed my attention there, but it's okay. It is okay. So these are basically two hot topics, especially in preschool. I don't know all the K-12 ins and outs, but these are last resorts for K-12. And like I said, these are first resorts for preschool. We deal with 3, 4, and 5-year-old children, and we are choosing to send them home as our first line of defense. We are choosing to expel them if we don't have the tools in our toolbox to maintain them at school. All right, like I said before, I don't know all the ins and outs on why we're being sent home. I just have a good idea, and parents are we're calling parents and guardians to basically pick up the child. And it's often phrased as to make it a good idea from the parent or guardian. I've called a parent. I'm not going to sit here and say that, how dare you, and I've done it. I worked for a preschool provider. I had a child who just did the room. It was close to the end of the day, and I was busy running the center, and I did what most people do, and he missed the rest of the day. It wasn't my first go-to with a lot of things, but nonetheless, I did it. When I taught third grade, we always handle issues in-house. My last year in third grade, I was in a really difficult class, and I did call parents, but never have them picked up. Remember, if a student has an IEP, suspensions cannot exceed 10 days. If we're having some serious behavior issues in the classroom that match their disability, then they have the right to be in the classroom. We're always looking for a reason why they behave that way. Well, he's this, or she's this, or she does this. We do this circular reasoning to explain away what the problem is. Well, if we're doing that, then that needs to be documented and addressed. But I also have a checklist that shows us the concerns for the behavioral intervention plan. We're talking serious issues. We're not talking Johnny doesn't want to sit on the carpet during carpet time. We're not talking we're talking some behavioral issues, some skill deficits that need to be addressed. We could also put a safety plan a long time before all this. Why are we waiting until the end? We need to address it as these things come in. I like this caption. I was trying to find something, but it's true. The principal suspended me, and school is the only place in the world where you get time off for bad behavior. I mean, stop and think about it. I act a fool, I get to go home. So if I don't want to be at school, what do I need to do? And that is the idea. And the idea behind school suspension is rooted in a behavioral principle. But we have to look at what's really going on. I was always tickled when students would be, they go to here, they go to there, and they get away from the classroom and they get a certain toy or a certain time with an adult. That's rewarding. If timeout is spending a time, excuse me, if timeout is simply spending time with an adult and getting that time with an adult, then that's rewarding for the student. So we have to look at all the aspects going on. The idea behind school suspension stems from a theory. If you take away school, then the student will come back with a better attitude, especially when the parents help educators with the problem behavior. Now, how often does that really happen? That sounds like a made up fairy tale quote right there. But we assume that if we take away school, that everything's going to work out the next day. But that doesn't happen. And I'm not gonna create the war of parent versus teachers and teachers versus parents. This is just the reality of we send students home and we expect a better result the next day. Well, that's kind of silly. I mean, it really is kind of silly. For one thing, the student has to want to be at school. If they want to be at school and school is a great place to be, then their behaviors are going to decrease because that's what they want to be at. They love being at school. They enjoy being at school. If they don't enjoy being at school, they don't like school, and school's a chore, school's a problem, then and they found a way to get out, they're going to keep doing that behavior. So we could say mom, dad, grandpa, grandma all day long, but we're having that issue. Like I said earlier, expulsion is not a go-to method of punishment for K-12 school systems. I don't know how many school districts in our area. I don't know that the first thing the child does wrong in the classroom, bam, we're gonna expel them. We're gonna clean our hands. That's not a go-to. Usually they actually, a lot of schools with behavioral problems contact the Arkansas behavioral support staff, and they train with behavioral support teams, which hopefully we can get their childhood just one step at a time. But they train on what to look for, strategies, suggestions, all kinds of stuff. Um, it's it's not a go-to. There's tiers. Do we need to work on classroom management? Do we need to work on classroom management? Maybe a few other strategies because it's a little bit, the behavior is a little bit more than usual. And then we have our tier 3 kids, just severe problem behaviors. There's self-injurious behaviors. They're hurting themselves. There's a safety issue. There's a dangerous issue going on. But we're planning. Obviously, these kids are probably in special ed. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll have some strategies along the way and some resources along the way. But there's a method, and I think we need to try to get there in preschool. But we're working on our systems. We're working on our things. We're not there yet. But we're trying to get there. We're working very hard to get there. That's why an assessment or training, and of course, the behavior intervention plan, if needed, needs to be put into place. All right, I'm not kind of repeating myself here, but I really want to hit it home of what we look at school suspension versus the behavioral principles and theories that go behind it. Like I said, if school's not where they want to be at, if school is a terrible place and I do not want to be in school, then the inappropriate behaviors, remove them. So, according to theory, we're going to do those things a whole lot more to go home. This is where we start hearing teachers go, well, he just got worse. I don't know what happened. We sent him home, he came back, and he just got worse. Well, stop and think. Do you want to be at school or do you want to be at home? Home's probably a more fun place. Especially when you're 3 to 5 and you don't have any academic tasks, no pressure to do anything, just be a kid at home. And mom and dad, grandpa, grandma, or whoever our guardian is, they got a lot going on in their lives. They're not stopping because of he got sent home. And then we get upset about what didn't happen or what should happen. Sometimes mom and dad got to take a day off from work. They lose money. They can lose their job possibly. We can create problems by constantly sending kids home. But the child wants to be there, like I said, then it's a different story altogether. Here's another thought, some more behavioral concepts. ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis, has a theory called matching law. Behavior goes where reinforcement flows. As adults, we do things that are more reinforcing. It's not just kids, it's not just infants, it's everybody. We like reinforcement. We like things to be rewarding. So now think about for a second how this applies to a classroom. If going home, so what? So if I'm going home, so what do you think the child will do when he gets there? And especially if it worked before. Think about ways a child earned attention from the teacher and got another toy or another child in an appropriate way. It worked. You know, I want that toy and I snatch it. I want teacher attention and I do this and I got her or I got him. It works. So those behaviors that are reinforcing, I'm not saying appropriate or inappropriate, reinforcing, we're going to do them again. All right, this woman is really amazing, and she's going to talk a little bit about school suspensions. It's a little bit lengthy, but it's not too long. I'm trying to keep everything kind of short, but I wanted to share it with you guys.
Young children are being suspended and expelled from school at alarming rates. Preschool children are suspended 3 times more than kindergarten through 12th grade combined. In Illinois, 40% of child care centers reported suspending infants and toddlers. Yes, those are children who have not yet turned 3 years old. African American children are only 19% of the preschool population, but comprise nearly half of all suspensions. You may be wondering, what can these kids possibly be doing to be suspended and kicked out of school so young? Surprisingly, many of them are engaging in typical childlike behaviors. I was one of those children. From the time I entered school, I was suspended at least 7 times a year. I was suspended for things like digging a hole in the playground to see if China was really on the other side of the earth. For that, I was labeled destructive. After a unit on maps, I climbed on top of the school auditorium so I could get a bird's eye view. And after the fire department and police department got me down, I was suspended. And for that, I was labeled incorrigible. There was this one time I took all the baby dolls' heads, arms, and legs off. I just wanted to see how the body parts fit together. But for that, I was labeled a demon. They actually told my parents I exhibited demon-like behaviors. Then there was this one time I snuck into the boys' bathroom. I wanted to see how they got to pee standing up. But for that, I was labeled sexually perverted. Now, these are all childlike behaviors, albeit from a very curious child, but childlike nonetheless. Let's look at behaviors. What is it that children do when they get upset or they're deemed out of control? They scream, cry, hit, cuss, fight, throw things. That's because they're kids. Kids are going to be kids. They don't have the capacity to handle such intense emotions. Let's take a look at what adults do when they get upset. Kick, scream, cry, fight, cuss, throw things. The list is exactly the same. And while we can expect kids to be kids, as adults, what's our excuse? My friend Walter Gilliam says, suspensions are adult decisions. Suspensions are adult behaviors. But what if we change that behavior? What if we shift our thinking, focusing on the behavior of adults rather than focusing on the behavior of children? What if my teachers would have seen me as a geologist rather than being destructive? What if they would have seen me as a scientist rather than being or a future doctor interested in anatomy rather than seeing me as sexually perverted? The key to managing the difficult behaviors of children is to manage our own behavior as adults. How many times have you seen an adult scold a child for screaming while also screaming, "Don't you dare talk to me!" Right? Or how many times have you seen them scold a child for hitting while also hitting? "Don't you dare hit your sister again!" Or sometimes we even exclude children for excluding children. "Oh, you don't want to play together? Just go to your rooms." The behavior that we give the most attention to is the behavior that we are promoting. This is Tavon. Tavon's mother was being called at least 3 times a week to pick him up from school for misbehavior. He was only 4 years old at the time. I went to school to observe, and I was struck by how eager Tavon was to please his teachers. At one point, the teacher called all the children to the rug for circle time. "All right, everyone, circle time. Come and sit crisscross applesauce." Tavon ran over and he sat perfectly crisscrossed with his hands in his lap. And he wanted the teachers to notice. He craned his neck. She didn't notice. And he craned again as if he was saying, "See me, teacher, see me." Again, she didn't notice. And being only 4, he became frustrated and gave up. He stuck his legs straight out in front of him, leaned back on his hands. And it was at that moment the teacher noticed. "Tavon, you are not sitting like a learner. Leave this circle and go sit at the table." Wow. Children who are suspended are 10 times more likely to enter the juvenile justice system. They are more likely to drop out of school, have low achievement, and be suspended again and again and again. And this is the beginning of the preschool to prison pipeline. Children rise to the expectations of the adults in their environment, whether it's negative or positive. When we pay more attention to negative behaviors, we will get negative behaviors. But when we pay attention to those behaviors we want to see in our classrooms or in our homes, we will see those behaviors more often. And it's because children care what we think about them. They actually want us to like them. The key is for us to be self-aware. When we're aware of ourselves, then we come to know what our hot buttons are, what our behavior is, and how we respond to the behavior of others. We come to understand what pushes us. We understand our body language, and we come to understand our tone. And these things are really important to know because behavior is defined by the person most annoyed by it. Now, for me, it was my daughter Jasmine when she was just 15 years old, teenager. She had the smartest, sassiest mouth I've ever seen or heard. She was quite clever and witty too, but that smart mouth, oh my goodness. My husband didn't understand why it bothered me, but for him, it was when she slammed the doors. Now, slamming the door didn't bother me because that meant that she was on the other side of it. He became so frustrated once that he said, "If you slam the door one more time, I'm going to take it off the hinges." Imagine my surprise when I came home one day and my 15-year-old didn't have a door to her bedroom. Now, in addition to being self-aware, when we build very strong, positive, authentic relationships with children, we come to know them, what their hot buttons are, and what triggers their behavior. We will also understand how our behavior impacts their behavior. I was observing another classroom and there was a little guy named Raphael. And Raphael was getting in a lot of trouble in this classroom. The teacher called his name so many times, I began to keep a tally mark every time she did. Raphael, stop. Raphael, don't. Raphael, sit down. Raphael, don't make me have to come over there. Raphael, Raphael, Raphael. She called Raphael's name 27 times in 7 minutes. Raphael was learning that that place was not a safe, fair, or equitable space for him. And all the other children in that classroom, they were learning how to treat Raphael. It is our responsibility to find and look for what's good, right, and best in every single child. Tom Herner, former president for the National Association of Special Educators, says, when children don't know how to read, we teach. When they don't know how to write, we teach. When they don't know how to ride a bike, we teach. But when children don't know how to behave, do we teach or do we punish? We punish. But what if we intentionally taught children how to behave? What if we taught them how to share rather than saying, you need to share? What if we taught them how to make friends, how to initiate play, how to take turns? And then what if we gave them many opportunities to practice? Imagine a world where we intentionally taught children pro-social skills, gave them many opportunities to practice, and positively reinforce them every time they use those skills. Challenging behaviors would be greatly reduced. Actually, the pyramid model for promoting the social emotional development of infants and young children has proven this to be true time and time again. When we use these strategies, we can disrupt and dismantle the preschool to prison pipeline. We can eradicate preschool suspensions, and we can mitigate the negative impacts of school suspensions on the child and on our society. Children do not suspend themselves. It takes an adult to do that, but we don't have to. When we focus on our own behavior, give children the tools they need to regulate theirs. Look for what's good, right, and amazing in every single child. We can stop suspensions, and we can keep our babies in school. Thank you.
It's pretty powerful right there. I mean, I was watching it for the first time, like, oh my gosh, she hits the nail on the head. And then I went to a professional development thing last week. I want to throw in there, Diana, here's the alternatives. We're going to hit those a little bit, keyword there. And this guy, he's a behavior analyst I've kind of met through studying. And it was about looking for the best in students during COVID. And of course, he's pulling some information from his recent books, and which I'm planning on getting because the guy is amazing. But he also talked about our value system and things that we do that take us toward those values, or things that we do that take us away from those values. And he also talked about, kind of the chain of, a teacher has a director, and the director has a superintendent, and it goes all the way up. And every one of those people have these core values. And those core values influence the decisions in the next, the next, the next, the next. And it hit me in a different way as much as she did. Are we working toward our values, or are we working away from our values? If we want to be better teachers, are we going out of our way to read and study and look up and research ways to be better? I'm in a unique situation because I found myself in behavior and I didn't want to wing it. This is not the position to wing it. So I want training. I want to be better. And the better I got, the more I moved toward my value system. My value system is to be the best at everything that I do. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but to be the best. So learning, I should have probably done more as a teacher, but it's funny how you get older, I guess, and things kind of change. But how often do we do things that move away? Like I want to travel, but I don't ever really travel. I want to be healthy, but I don't ever eat right. I want to do these things, but I'm not willing to do them. And we're going away from our value system. We're moving away from our core values, and we're not solving problems. We're possibly creating problems. Punishment works. Everyone in this room, we know punishment has worked. But punishment also has a vicious cycle. It also has a coercion cycle. It worked in the moment. I got immediate results, and I'm stuck there. Versus long term. What about, like she said, teaching replacement behaviors, promoting certain behaviors, instead of telling children how to do certain ways, show them, teach them. Now, I'm with a lot of you guys. We have kids and we have students. I just want to lose, every last bit of hair I have left on my head. But I have teachers too. Why aren't we trying? Why aren't we trying this or doing this or doing this? Not that I have all the answers, but kids learn through imitation. They learn through modeling. So stop and think about it for a second. Like she said, if they're learning how to hit, learning how to yell, learning how to do all those inappropriate behaviors, and then we get mad about them, we are teaching. I think my own kids have taught me alternatives to doing the right thing. Conscious discipline is not just saying how you feel and blowing into the star breathing or whatever they have. There's a whole program. Survival, and getting that executive state of mind. There's also looking at yourself, your CD of things that you've learned through your life, calming yourself down and then approaching the child. There's a whole bit of stuff with conscious discipline. It's not just the cutesy, attractive things that we like that we could put on bulletin boards. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of facets with it that get overlooked. There's a lot of facets and a lot of behavior programs that get overlooked. Here are some alternatives based on Reese Patterson. He talks about coordinated behavioral plans, a creation of a structured, coordinated behavior support plan specific to the student and based on a hypothesis on the function of the behavior. In other words, why we're doing that certain specific behavior. It also focuses on increasing desirable behavior and replacing inappropriate behaviors. Okay, a lot of words there, probably lost some of y'all, but it's basically, let's create a plan, figure out why we're doing this, and then replace it with more desirable behaviors. Sometimes we don't need a behavior plan. Sometimes we could use a crisis or a safety plan. And it's not just getting all hands on deck. It's what happens before. Breathing, calming. We always say, calm down, calm down, calm down. If I tell my wife to calm down, she's not going to calm down. She's going to get mad. So you have to show, you have to breathe. Well, I don't know what to do. They're doing all this and doing all this. Well, they're not going to talk to you while they're mad. They're going to talk to you when they calm down. Getting there is tough. Can we isolate the child in a part of the room where I don't want to get beat up, but I rather take shots than the student. You know, we put them in a spot of the room where we're not holding, we're not restraining, we're just kind of keeping them away from the rest of the class to calm down and calming. And if we keep our cool, we have a better chance of him calming down. Alternative programming provides short or long-term changes in the student's schedule, classes, or course content to offer the option of participating in independent study. This sounds kind of like a little bit of older kid stuff, but maybe we need to offer alternatives. If he can't sit well during circle time and he's not getting all the info he's supposed to be getting, okay, then we'll just pull some small, we'll just talk to him when we're in centers and I'll work with him. We'll just work with him. There has to be another way of going about it. Of course, change of placement is also an option here for alternative programming. Happens a lot in preschool. He doesn't work out here or she doesn't work out here, so we're going to put him over here. But sometimes we shuffle kids. They feel kind of lost in the shuffle. A lot of classrooms I've been in, and you guys probably the same, the kids with the less problem behaviors are the more structured classrooms. My own kid, my own child told his mom on the phone last Thursday night, I get in trouble over at Dad's house. That's why I don't do those things. You know, my son knows there's structure at my house. I don't know about his. I'm not going to badmouth his house or his mom or anything like that. I don't know, but I know I caught a glimpse of how he feels about my house. He feels safe and he has structure. Create a caring school community and climate. Well, this kind of goes back to conscious discipline. You know, that team environment, that family environment. We want to be at school. We're all in this together. But what happens is we take those conscious discipline or whatever else, we put the posters up, the bulletin boards up, we put the breathing strategies in the corner with a couple of cozy toys, and we're all set. Are we? Did we train? Did we show? Did we do anything beyond that? These programs that intend patterns of good communication, problem solving, having clear patterns of authority and decision-making procedures for developing and implementing rules, getting wordy here, helping students feel they belong and are welcome, good curriculum and instructional practices, and having a clean and positive physical environment. That sounds like structure. Sounds like a great classroom. That's a school family. That's a great school family right there. Families have their squabbles, but in the end, families are together. You know, just a thought there. You know, stop and think for a second. Why are we so invested in preschool for conscious discipline curriculum? You know, there's a reason why we're invested in it. There's a reason why it's so attractive. There's a reason why we're like, hey, that sounds great. There's a reason why Becky Bailey just leaps off the videos, or if you've seen her in person, you know, she just blows me away. There's a reason why. Because of the atmosphere and the school climate she's trying to create. There's a reason. There's a reason why these behavioral analysts that I keep reading about and meeting and discovering jump off the page and jump off the screen, because they're creating an environment that's nurturing for that client. Also, we need efforts to build adult-student relationships. When I was in third grade, I heard of a intervention called like 5 by 10, 10 days in a row, 5 minutes of your time talking to the student. They can tell you anything they want to tell you. Note, it's a judgment-free Planet Fitness zone. Getting to know that student. You know, if the student feels they're always in trouble and they can't do anything right, and they have no rapport with that teacher, what's going to happen? That woman said 27 don't do this, don't do that in 9 minutes. I was in a class the other day and 20 in 9 minutes. Don't do this, 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 don't do this. Not one thing what he can do, and not one thing showing modeling a replacement behavior. No, he's extreme, he's out of control, and we need to nip it quick. We do. not dismissing the behaviors, but we need a relationship. I loved hanging with my kids when I taught third grade. Me and my kids were tight. I was always a teacher, but I always worked on building relationships. That chat box thing, I always see the alert and it's like, oh, gotta look. Increased parent involvement. Doesn't always happen. And a lot of us going to say, oh man, that's not going to happen. It may not happen. You'd be surprised the parents and grandparents that want to be involved. There is a place in Conway where this judge, I'd love to mirror what he does for adolescents, but it's so cool. He has grandma sewing clubs and karate clubs and all these, people who are retired helping out these teenagers. Why? Because they want to be involved, and they were offered a chance to get involved. You'd be surprised how many parents, grandparents, retired people would love to read to kids or watch in the playground or do something with these kids. You'd be surprised. But mom and dad, a lot of our population here, they work crazy hours. A lot of things are happening, so it's kind of hard. But I do know moms and dads want to be involved. I'm not perfectly involved with my child because he lives so far away. I like to be, but if I'm offered a chance, I'm going to be. Character education, consistent school values. I'm not saying social stories, because I think I've already told y'all, if I read this social story and you're going to magically turn into this great kid because I read you a story about this behavior. It's like going to a meeting and you learn how to be a better employee. When you walk out, are you a better employee? No, you learn some stuff. You got to apply it to be the better employee. Character education and school value programs the same way. We don't talk about things. We give students a chance to be successful in those things. What's the important values of character? And then we commend them on those decisions that they make. School curriculum and organization features that promote the development of fundamental values in children. Typically, these list desirable goals for student behavior. We always know what they're not supposed to do, but what are some things that we can do? What are some things that are good for us to do? Appropriate and inappropriate, those are opinions. Good and bad, those are opinions. What's good for me might be bad for you, and what's appropriate for you may be inappropriate for her. Those are opinions. Those are value-based thoughts. So if we're going to move toward our value system, then we need to remember that instead of moving away and then getting mad. Early identification and intervention. We tried this, it didn't work. We tried this, it didn't work. Let's try something else. Programs that permit systematic screening of students for potential problem behaviors and which provide intervention for students identified as at risk. Now, there's a big disclaimer I'm going to put there too. What happens a lot of time is, I got this student who presents problem behaviors, what can I do? Well, as a behavior specialist, I need data. How often? Is there a pattern? What's going on? I need to find out why he's doing it, and then I can create intervention to help with that child's individual needs. A lot of times we just throw these strategies, token boards, which are great, or whatever, and we don't get results within the next 2 days. Then we get mad and we're like, this doesn't work. Well, we gave it a day. We gave it 2 days. It takes 21 days for a habit to be established, and we're mad over not having a 2-day turnaround. Stop to think about that. Mediation programs that teach students about nonviolent conflict resolution and permit students to use and experience these in school. That sounds a lot like what we're trying to do with conscious discipline, conflict resolution. Well, it starts with the teacher modeling, showing, and then they're able to do it by themselves. Bullying prevention and intervention. I understand the whole bullying thing. I get it. I completely understand. But bullying is not, I didn't get my way. He's mean to me. That's not bullying. Bullying is specifically targeting a certain student because they're stronger and they're weaker. And that creates a pipeline all the way through whatever. But we need to teach, if we're going to provide we're bully-free school, we need specific programs laced in our curriculum that show us what that looks like. Conflict de-escalation training. We do crisis prevention here at the co-op. If we're going to tell someone to calm down, we better have some ways to show them how to calm down. And I'm working on myself. I still catch myself saying calm down. I'm just as guilty. I'm trying to get myself to buy some pinwheels or maybe a flower, and they blow the pinwheel, because when you blow, you're breathing. My favorite right now is I stole probably from Becky Bailey. We pretend we have cookies right here, and we smell the cookies. We pretend we're smelling cookies. Well, as we're pretending, we're smelling. As we're smelling, guess what? We're breathing. Because sometimes in the heat of the moment, they don't want to breathe. I had a kid at a clinic I was working at last year, and he was all over the place like a monkey. I mean, literally. And it was already time for me to go, him to go, and I could have easily went. And by the time I got him to go to mom, I could easily went, here you go, see you later. I couldn't go out like that. So I sat there with mom and grandma, and we did the cookie thing, and he wouldn't smell the cookies, but he ate chicken nuggets. Whatever. He was breathing. He calmed down, got his shoes on, smile on his face, walked out. A whole lot better than mom and dad carrying him, kicking and screaming. Whole lot better. I couldn't go down like that. I couldn't do it. He was a good kid. He still is. School-wide discipline program. Programs to develop a common terminology and consistent approach to discipline across staff. Responsibilities of students and staff are identified. Consistency and rule enforcement is increased, and consequences are identified. If you do have some serious problematic behaviors, we probably need to sit down and do a safety or a crisis plan. What happens before, what happens during certain spots in the classroom, hallway, special ed room, therapy room, whatever. We might need to look at that and map out what we need to do. Most school-wide programs, I'd say it again, conscious discipline serves that purpose also. It looks at consequences for positive and negative behaviors and how they occur and what we're going to do. But we also need to look at teaching, what are we going to do as a school? What are we going to do as a staff when this behavior occurs? What are we going to do as a school and a staff when these good things occur? There's a program called, and the next one leads in the next bullet point here, called Catch 'em Being Good. The program works around catching students for doing positive, inappropriate, or deemed appropriate behaviors. That's the idea behind your token board and your tagulators and whatever. We're going to reward positive behaviors. We're going to catch them being good, literally catch them being good. Positive office referrals, positive rewards, we're identifying positive things. We're looking for replacement behaviors, and we're celebrating it. Because they are doing good things. These kids that drive us crazy, they're doing something that's good. And if we're going to use a token board, pull out. I don't want to steal too much from tomorrow's, but if we're going to use a token board, we're not counting bad behaviors. We're not counting those negative behaviors. There's a game called the Good Behavior Game. It's a class-wide deal, and it looks at the students who do the less behaviors you don't want them to do. That group gets rewarded. Well, flip it. The group that does the most good behaviors or the things we need them to do can be rewarded. There's always something good going on. It's sometimes it's hard to catch it. Scope and complexity of the problem. I can't pronounce it, so I'm going to say it with confidence. Stegling, 2018, talks about preschool suspension and expulsion. It's a complex issues with implications for the following. We've already heard that's a pipeline to prison. We've already heard that's a pipeline to problems down the road. Mental health and emotional well-being of preschool children. Traumatic based, guys. Think of trauma-based students. All these traumatic events keep hitting them. We're going to have lifetime effects. We're going to have all those effects down the road. I know we like to say mental health. It's a mental health. He's doing this or she's doing this because. Let's just look at the problem and how we can address it. Sometimes it's not always, what we think. Can't explain away everything. If so, I explain away my bills, but they don't seem to go away. Access to assessment and appropriate services for children with special needs. Well, you have, I think I'm speaking of the state here, the state of Arkansas, you have early childhood behavior specialists throughout the state at local co-ops. And we provide assessment. We can offer functional assessments to provide appropriate services for those special needs. We have developmental screenings. Our special ed programs provide assessments and appropriate services for students with special needs. Your co-ops provide a lot of that need right there. Teacher preparation and professional development. That's a big one. I think we're often underlooked. They're only preschoolers. They're only preschool kids. It can't be that bad. They're just little kids. Well, do we say that about middle school? Because middle school is a tough group of kids. Chemical imbalance, changes going on, puberty and adolescence. It's just a wild time. We don't say they're just teenagers. We put good people to address those needs. I know early childhood gets a bad rap on PD, but we're working on it. I know other organizations are working on it. Not that it's completely not there and we're like building it, but I know K-12 gets more recognition for all these things going on, and we're kind of, but nonetheless, they're there. They're there. But teacher preparation is important. I look at myself when I taught. When I was prepared in my classroom, I had all my bases covered, lessons, everything. We had a great day. When I went in and walked out, nothing planned, I swam. Teacher preparation is a big deal. And all these professional developments, you don't have to do 10,000 things and change your whole classroom and change your whole way of thinking. I was always told, grab one thing every year, one thing that you like, one takeaway, and add that every year. And after a while, you add so many different things, you're just building. I went to a Kagan training. I loved it. Oh my gosh, it was so cool. So I took those strategies and put them in my classroom for the rest of the year. And then the next year I added something else, and I added something else. 1 year I added literature circles, but you always try to add something. Parenting education, especially in the areas of social and emotional development. If you offer parent training on how to do de-escalation strategies, even if you get one parent, that's a victory. You could do a Zoom and record it and send it to your parents. That's what I like about Zoom. It's not just a COVID thing. It's just an availability thing. But I've been to several parent trainings. Parents want to learn things. They also don't want to be told how to raise their kids, but they want to be told some strategies. Unbiased and equal access to education and care for culturally diverse young learners in the United States. Everyone deserves a free access to education. All right, so let's talk about Arkansas. This is based on some statistics from some research articles I found. I hope I'm not getting too all over the place. It's just a lot of conversation happening here. Trauma-based students in Arkansas. In case you haven't realized, Arkansas does have a high poverty rate. That's 2013, but if you look around, at least in our area in Southwest, we do have a high poverty rate. And with poverty, you do have trauma. You do have a lot of issues that come about that. So that creates issues right there. That doesn't explain away their behaviors, but that tells you something. About 16% of children screened in Arkansas's public pre-K programs had significant behavior concerns, and 22% had one or more emotional, behavioral, or developmental concerns. So 16% of students being screened, out of that 16%, 22 of them have a big laundry basket full of behavioral, emotional, developmental concerns. Skill deficits, not knowing, social skills, adaptive skills, maladaptive skills, the list can probably go on. And they all go together. Most mental health providers in the state were not trained in evidence-based interventions for young children. Most of us don't. We're just trying to figure it out as we go. And that's not working. The reason why evidence-based interventions work, the reason why they're so effective, there's research backing them up. It's not, oh, I'm going to try this. No, they were replicated and they were demonstrated that they work and they're effective. Once again, this is 2013, so hopefully we've made leeway in the last 7 years in that area. Arkansas' response for child poverty rate, social, emotional, and behavioral concerns resulted in Project Play. I don't know if y'all have heard Project Play is, I don't know if it's a UAMS or however, but I know it's big. And they go in, do classroom observations, and they do the whole, we need to work on this and show, teach, model, train, all that stuff. But that was created out of a problem. Sometimes the most beautiful things in the world are created out of a problem. I know we haven't said much about it, but let's dive back into implicit bias. Out of all those kids, who gets in trouble the most? Out of all those kids that are suspended and all those kids who are expelled, who always gets in trouble? Well, the Kerwin Institute says that implicit bias are defined as attitudes or stereotypes that are activated unconsciously or involuntarily. They are not the same bias that a person might try to hide because they're unpopular or socially incorrect. So unconsciously and involuntary. We're not purposely trying to say boys are worse than girls. We're not purposely doing that. It's an unconscious thing. Who gets in trouble in the classroom? What race do we often feel is more capable of causing trouble? Do white kids get in trouble more than black kids? No. That's just the truth. We tend to believe certain children in the classroom are capable of challenging behaviors. That one little girl, no way she could do all that. No way. Some of my girls that are not referrals to me, and some of my girls in the classrooms I serve, they create a handful of problems on their own. We just don't think about it because she's cute and she has her bows in her hair and she's so sweet to us. She's just as capable as a boy. I'm not saying because boys are innocent, we create our own world of problems here. This video right here is going to look at yes, they can. Yes, they can. This is going to talk about pre-K suspensions, how they target black students. This is real, guys. This is not as long as the last one, but this is real. If I can get to play.
Can you rhyme? So if I say cat,
In the hat? 4-year-old JJ and his 3-year-old brother Joa are doing what children their age do. Running and playing 1 minute, pushing the next. When they act up at home, they are disciplined.
I think that they're typical 4 and 3-year-olds.
But at school,
He's been suspended about 5 times.
At 3?
At 3. And I can't make this up. I wish I was. He hit one of the teachers on the arm and they sent him home. And they said that they considered that hitting to be a danger to the staff.
The most recent report says 7,500 children nationwide were suspended at least once from public preschool. Yes, preschool. The alarming numbers reported by the Department of Education also say Black students are being suspended and expelled at a rate 3 times greater than white kids across all grades.
We know there is a correlation between doing out-of-school suspensions and expulsions and ultimately locking kids up. For far too many children and communities, the school-to-prison pipeline is real. And the fact that it starts as young as 4, again, simply isn't good enough.
In Los Angeles, America's second largest school district, Superintendent John Dacey finds the trend disturbing. Why are these numbers playing out this way?
Ma'am, I think they're the same biases that are in society. And so I think this is a reflection of the growth we have yet to do in this country around these issues.
What shocked him? The reason. The majority of suspensions in his district were for something called willful defiance.
It was things like failure to do homework, failure to bring your notebook to class. And that's not willful defiance, that's adolescence.
A year ago, the district became the first in the nation to remove willful defiance as a reason for suspensions. And the numbers have dropped ever since. 3 years ago, there were 19,000 suspensions. This year, 8,000. The teachers union never took a stance on the issue, with some teachers saying willful defiance has been abused, and others saying it takes an important disciplinary tool away from their classrooms.
I teach my kids all the time, education is your passport.
Jeanette Powell learned that the hard way. Long before her sons were born, she was labeled a troublemaker. As the daughter of a drug-addicted father, she struggled in school and life.
I was expelled from school when I was 3 years old in preschool. And when I first got the phone call about JJ, I immediately thought back to that. You know, at a young age, I was told that I was a bad kid in school.
Jeanette proved them wrong, eventually got her college degree, wrote a book, and became an accomplished public speaker, even giving a TED Talk.
Get behind the line.
The Powells have worked hard to make a good life for their children.
My biggest fear is that they'll be labeled and that they'll believe it.
Every day, she fights to inspire her boys, more a preschool to pre-med mentality
Go! Go do it! Go do it! Go do it!
than preschool to prison. Sarah Seidner, CNN, Omaha.
It's amazing, you know, who we look at for our problems in the classroom, and we're all guilty. I mean, I've had to teach myself that girls are just as bad as boys, because I know boys are ornery. I'm a boy. I know what I'm capable of doing, but it's sad, and we don't want to deal with it. We don't want to teach and replacement behaviors and these great things. We just rather get rid of. And then when you get rid of, it's just that vicious cycle again of I scolded, I got rid of the problem, and the teacher, she's rewarded that negative reinforcement of she got rid of that problem. But guess what? Her behavior is going to increase. His behavior is going to increase. So it comes in this cycle. Like I said earlier, is that moving us toward our values or away from our values? And we're just going to say our value as educators. Let's just keep it simple there. This is from William Gilliam, 2005, a little bit longer ago than the other two things. This comes from a study called Pre-Kindergartners Left Behind. So some more startling facts for us. I'm not trying to make everyone sad or upset or whatever. And this is just a lot of stuff I'm kind of on what I've discovered and from what I've read. But a national study with weighted results indicated that 10.4% of, let's just say pre-K teachers, reported expelling at least one preschooler in the past 12 months, which results to, let's just say 20% more than one. And that's 2005. And I'm pretty sure our numbers may have went up. So and if you round up to say 11% pre-K teachers report at least one preschooler. You know, now we have COVID. Now we have virtual. I don't want to have in my classroom. Virtual learning might be a great idea. Is that expulsion? I don't know. But that's and also another thing we have to start looking at in the COVID era. Nationally, 6.67 preschoolers were expelled per 1,000 students enrolled. So you got 1,000 kids, and let's just say 7 were expelled, not suspended for 10 days, sent to the house for the rest of the year. So that creates a whole can of worms there. Mom, dad, grandpa, grandma, whoever, caregiver, guardian, they got to work. And then we're fixing the problem while they're working. We want mom and dad, whoever, to step in and fix it. They're working. They don't have time. Expulsion rate is 3.2 times the rate for K-12. Like I said earlier, K-12's last resort, we do it first. And like we showed earlier, we're going to say it again, we're going to look at some more facts here in a little bit. Black students are suspended first. Boys. All right. Results from this study also included that older preschoolers were also expelled at a higher relative rate compared to younger preschoolers. But I've seen 3-year-olds that are too hard to handle and need to be expelled or need to be suspended. But our older ones, and then we also had those 5-year-olds who missed the birthday, they missed the cutoff. We get 1 more year of them, and they're also at a higher rate to be expelled because they're older, they're bigger, physically and developmentally. So there's problems there. 4-year-olds were expelled at a rate of 50% greater than 2-year-olds or 3-year-olds. So 4 and 5, we're always looking at. And then on top of it, when they go to kindergarten, what's happening there? And I know the behavior support specialist for Arkansas has that circuit program. So you're telling, and I've talked to my colleagues, our caseload numbers. So let's just throw a number out there. Let's just say there's 500 problem behavior kids in the state of Arkansas preschool. You're telling me that there's 500 problem behavior kids, uncontrolled, out of control kids that we can't do something with. And then they go to kindergarten and they're not circuit referrals. So they weren't cured. There wasn't a magic cure or magic potion along the way. Now, granted, there are some kids that we do transfer to kindergarten. They promote through kindergarten that do have some behavioral issues, some problem behaviors that continue to need some supports along the way. I'm not giving everyone a free pass. I don't want y'all to think that. There's a lot of kids that don't get referred as they go up. And a lot of referrals in our system. COVID kind of reduced them with smaller class loads, but we all know it's not going to last forever. Children who were either 5 or 6 years old were about twice as likely to be expelled. Like I said earlier, these are the kids who waited another year around. Their birthday missed the cutoff. They're more than likely to get in trouble. Now here's the kicker too. Most of those kids have already learned what to do to either get something, get out of something. You know, these are those kids that we say are manipulative and they manipulate. No, they've learned through 3 or 4 years of preschool of what to do and what not to do. So we're talking a lot of learned behavior there. Because I've seen it. I saw a kid at a center I used to work with. You know, we had a kid who stayed an extra year, and his problem behaviors increased that last year he was there. But you also can understand, he was there since he was a baby, 2 years old. A lot of learning going on, not manipulating, learning going on in those 4 years. So, you know, that's why we need to, you know, work with those students and show the class that you, not so much you get away with it, but if I get one-to-one with the teacher for acting a fool and somebody else sees it, and I don't nip that one, I got to follow her. So we forget about how kids learn through imitation. You always say learn behavior, learn behavior. Everything we do is learned. We learn through consequences, guys. We have rule governed behavior. We learn through rules, but we learn a lot through consequences. African American preschoolers were about twice as likely to be expelled compared to Latino and non-Latino preschoolers, and over 5 times as likely as Asian Americans. So, this is from 2005, and we already saw a CNN study. We are pinpointing African American preschoolers. And if we're doing that in preschool, that pipeline will keep on going as they get older. Boys were expelled at a rate over 4.5 times that of girls. And boys accounted for 91% of all expulsions. This is 2005. So we got about 8.6% on girls when this study took place. Expulsion rates were lowest in public schools and Head Start, and highest in faith-based centers and for-profit childcare. That's alarming there. The expulsion rate for Arkansas. This is off that 2005 study. This is 2005, so hopefully things got better. I hope they did, I'm with you. I hope they got better. Arkansas Better Chance ranked 36 in state program systems, and they had a 4.48% expulsion rate per 1,000. That means in 2005, for every 1,000 kids, about 4 kids were expelled, sent to the house for the year. Not going home for a couple days, the house for the year. Arkansas ranked 29th overall. So in 2005, we weren't the best, but we weren't the worst either. So that's good. 4.40 expulsion rate per 1,000. This overall in Arkansas compared to the 1 for K-12. So basically, you got. Let's just round up here, guys. You got 5 kids that are going home for the rest of the year in preschool, versus really 1, maybe 2 in K-12. Like I said, this is a first resort for preschool. It's the last resort for K-12. 15 students expelled out of an estimated enrollment of 3,462 students. This is from that study from Gilliam. I found this one website that really broke down K-12 and Arkansas. We're not as bad as some numbers show. There are some states where it is mind-blowing. We're doing good. I had a colleague, I shared this with some of my study friends, my presentation, and she said, isn't that great you guys have supports down there? We're in Washington, the state, and we don't have as many supports. And I told her, if you have the supports, you still have to follow through with the practice. So it's amazing to see what we have in Arkansas, but we still need to do some follow-up. Here's some more numbers on our years, our gender. Not surprising, men over our boys over females. This is still 2005 study, and if you look at the ethnicity, hope I'm saying that right. Look who we're targeting. I do have some white, children who are in my caseload, but we do target African Americans. I'm not saying we should let everyone get away with what's going on, but I'm just saying these are the facts. Problem behaviors are problem behaviors. Also give my disclaimer again. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just stating what the facts say on those things. It also has sparked, according to this study, implications for policy. Many early education programs do not have behavioral support systems or mental health programs. This is not just statewide. This is United States wide. Arkansas, since 2005, does have behavioral support services. You guys have your co-ops, your early childhood supports. You have your K-12 behavioral supports. You have a lot. You have private behavioral support systems, Ames Clinic, ICM, Blue Spring, there's a whole bunch of them. Yeah, they do clinic work and some do home-based services, but we do have behavioral support systems in our state. We do. We do have mental health programs in our state. We have services, we have programs. And oftentimes we just don't know they're available. I know I learned a bunch working here. And I have a little, let me find it. I found this little guy when I went to a conference, and it's an information resource list. And it just has just resources of people I can contact if I have a question on something. I'm very blessed and encouraged. I've discovered Diana with Child Care Aware. There's amazing services they have to offer. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Collaboration with behavioral consultants can provide teachers, educators, and early childhood programs consultation regarding the students' problematic behaviors, as well as focus on general classroom management skills. When I was swimming in the classroom, one thing I wanted to work on was classroom management. You can never get enough classroom management. It all starts there. I'm not saying we're struggling, we're all swimming, and that's the root of our problem, and we're going to think, no. Sometimes we need to work on our translation cues, or work on this cue, or work on that. But there are behavioral consultants, there are programs in our state that can help us with these programs and services. You have co-ops that provide training for teachers, educators, and early childhood programs with services for problematic behaviors. You have outside services that provide classroom management skills. A-State, UAMS, the list can go on. There are Project Play. There are people that come in our classrooms along with us who can provide training and skills. That's why I think a lot of my colleagues, we don't have a problem with these services. We encourage these services. The idea behind behavioral support services is for me to go out of business. I don't want to be in business. I want to go out of business. Because if I go out of business, we're providing the needs of our children. Furthermore, school suspension can increase the problem behaviors versus eliminating them, while creating problems with the parent guardians as well. You've already talked about that. Mom, dad, grandpa, grandma, or the guardian, caregiver, they have to work. They have to work. You know, and we don't know the makeups of these homes like we think we do. I know a parent who is very upset about having to lose wages for a day. And I'm sure that happens a lot more. A resource, I want to kind of share some resources available. I don't know every single one of them. I don't know all the numbers or who to call and all that, but I definitely want to provide what I can. If I'm going too fast or too slow and you want to get something, I've already emailed Diana a copy of today's presentation. So if there's something that you want to have as a resource, definitely get a hold of her and she can email that to you. But I definitely want to give a plug to Child Care Aware. I think that they're kind of overlooked. I discovered them through my colleagues. They came in service when I was at a different provider, but we saw the resources they had in Conway, and it blows my mind. They have information on early childhood care and education, from picky eaters, biting, kindergarten readiness. They got books, guys. They have kits. They have all kinds of stuff. They have laminating. They have construction paper. They have cutout stuff. They have all that stuff. So you can go to your co-op if they have a teacher center, but Child Care Aware also has some things too as well. They also have professional development, like today, registered and approved on PDR. So there's a lot of resources. They also have resources on programs in our state that can help out, like REACH, the inclusion program Diana were talking about the other day, who's helped a program reduce their suspension. The list goes on. I don't know all these programs, but I think Diana does. Definitely reach out to her if you need to. Then, of course, there's always me. I kind of gave my little spiel at the beginning on the things that we do, but I'm not alone. There are several co-ops throughout the state. This is just Southwest. Arts4 has a great behavioral specialist. I can keep going on all over the place. But we provide professional development and trainings. I'm using the Zoom as a better way to reach out too. I also record my stuff, so if we're not here today, I could use it for trainings for other days, other educators as a resource. Consultation, direct observation, all the things we listed earlier. You know, providing a plan, providing strategies. You know, it's not enough for me to go in there and say, I think we need to try a token board. Not enough. I need to figure out what's going on and tailor-made that intervention. Nonetheless, I don't want to get too deep in that. Here's a list of some resources I found. I knew about behavioral health, but then again with COVID, I don't know the response level right now. I know some places aren't going anywhere. They're doing strictly Zooms and they're not going to classrooms. The co-ops are going to classrooms. So we still have that going on. Behavioral health is kind of like a hotline thing. You call in there and you tell them your problem and all that stuff, but you gotta wait. I'm not trying to downplay their service, but their response time isn't as fast as a cooperative as well. Some cooperatives also some serve special ed kids, some serve everybody, some serve certain level of problems. At my co-op, I serve special ed kids. Now, I don't have a problem, you know, being there, being available, but as far as behavior plans and all that stuff, I am looking at my IEP kids. Project Play, like we said earlier, this is just the stuff I found online. They offer service offers and innovative techniques proven to provide positively impact social and emotional development. It's just, if you need more information, just kind of Google that and they have some stuff. I didn't know about Reach until lately. I went to a provider to check on a client and they're telling me they're using the Reach program. So we kind of looked up that one and found out some information there. And of course, A-State has some great services as well. They come in and help with training and modeling as well. And these are some references from some stuff I took today. A lot of that came from like a couple of the articles. I hope I'm not missing all my articles, but my articles were mainly 3 articles I pulled from, and that was the meat and potatoes for a lot of my facts. I don't know if I probably still have it in here. Yeah, there it is. All right. That one, the Walter Gilliam was preschool and job care expulsion and suspension. That's where I pulled one of them from. And then preschool suspension expulsion. This is where I pulled some other stuff from. And then the kindergarten, the pre-K left behind. I'll scan those if anybody wants a copy of that. There really isn't a lot of preschool data out there and research that's showing, you know, what's really going on. That's the bad thing. There's a lot of K-12 stuff, but we do have enough statistics out there that kind of show what's happening as well. I hope I wasn't, you know, like made you all be like, oh my gosh, this is a terrible thing going on, and my gosh. And you know, this has been a topic that's been kind of dear to me for a while, because it relates to the diversity, it relates to the ethnicity, it relates to implicit bias, school suspension and expulsion. You know, you can't overlook one without connecting the dots to another. They all go together, and it's concerning. It's alarming. You know, regardless of recent events in our world, it's alarming. You know what we focus on. But I also want to give a plug to a book called Behavioral Karma. Let me write that in the chat box. Behavioral Karma. I'm going to buy that book. I'm not really sure everything, but I know it's really good. and it talks about behavioral principles and concepts and how it kind of relates to the world and things that we do. I found this book, and I definitely am going to buy it and share it as soon as I can. It's called Quick Wins. I read the beginning of it, and it was a school principal. He his first year in the job at an impoverished school. First thing he did was he painted the building, and he instituted more staff during morning arrival and lunchtime, the biggest unstructured parts of the day. And we had turnaround. You know, he wasn't working with the kids, or he'd have staff work with kids. He had staff focus on helping staff with those issues. Hope I'm saying his name right. The author of these books is Paul Giovanni. He goes by Paulie. I went to one of his things last week. He works for Brett Denovi and Associates. Just something to think about. If I can get 8 people to register for a Zoom, he will host one for early childhood. He's based out of Florida. His brother, Brett Denovi, big behavior guy, he's based out of New Jersey. But nonetheless, Paul said he would host us something school-based. I'm assuming early childhood, since that's my area right now. But we had to have at least 8 people. He's really, really good. He wrote Quick Wins. He wrote Behavioral Karma. He also wrote a book called, this is another book I want to buy. He also wrote Deliberate Coaching. That's a go-to book for a lot of educators. Yeah, I heard these 3 books. I know about Behavioral Karma, but I heard the other 2 last week. I'm like, my gosh. And they're not expensive, guys. I think Quick Wins is like $10, and Deliberate Coaching, you know, probably a little bit more than that. I mean, these are not break the bank $200 books here. There's also another book that just came out. This is not from him, somebody else. Oh, no. It's called Blind Spots. And it looks at education. I don't know too much other than the quick synopsis I got through my behavioral group. But those are 4 books I know I'm going to buy and 4 books I'm going to read. And I'm not a reader. That tells you how I'm kind of excited about these 4 books. But those are 4 books I'm seriously looking at getting, because those authors are amazing. But nonetheless, pretty cool stuff. But Diana, just let me know. We can probably get a survey going around, you know, who would be interested. But I'm telling you guys, if you sat in a workshop with Paul, we call him Dr. Paulie, you'd be blown away. That's where I got the values we're going toward or away from our values was him. I wish I could get his PowerPoint and share it. His presentation was phenomenal. I sent a proposal to him because he's thinking about coming down to Arkansas and maybe doing some work with us also. But we'll find out if that happens, or if it doesn't. He has some great resources along the way. But all right, just giving y'all heads up. This is also being recorded. I'm going to put this on my YouTube channel under professional development. I cannot give you credit after today. Credit only goes to today, so you're registered, all that. Little Captain Obvious here, can't give you credit for watching a video. Kind of hard to figure all that out. But that will be available there. If you just Google me, I think I put in tomorrow's. My name, you could find my YouTube channel or just put my name in YouTube. There's a lot of behavioral resources there. I do 2 book studies a week. A lot of stuff you're probably gonna be like, oh my gosh, but I try to put my professional development stuff in there. Some stuff I can't put in there because of copyright and all that stuff, especially my crisis prevention. But I try to put my professional development there to have resources available. But if you just YouTube me, you'll find all of my stuff. And I've had some great speakers, believe it or not, stop by my book club and talk. What's the worst they can say is no. And most of them have said yes. So there's some material that's probably like, woof, because that behavioral stuff, it gets pretty complicated quick, but there's a lot of resources that are available for everybody. But I really do appreciate everybody. Hope I didn't talk too much. I can turn into a talker pretty easily. Little plug for tomorrow. If you haven't registered for tomorrow, we're going to look at how to build a token economy, reward system, whatever you want to call it. It is kind of a replay of what we talked about before, but only looking at the steps in a token economy. A lot of time what happens is we go, here you go. You know what to do, right? You know what to do? No. So there are steps along the way. Treasury Box does work. We have to have guidelines with it. So I'll share some of that as well. A lot of good stuff happening. And then, of course, in the upcoming months as well, I'm going to keep pairing and partnering and try to keep more stuff through the Arkansas PDR, because this has been more effective. For one, free. You can't beat free and availability. But I also will probably have some stuff this summer through my co-op, and those aren't going to be free. But I do plan on having some good stuff on the way also. I do want to look at this summer data collection. A lot of us behavior specialists tell you guys, we need data. And then you guys are like, what? You need what? You want me to do what? So we probably need to spend some time looking about, different strategies and techniques and what we're doing and the things we want you guys to do. But I really do appreciate you all. You'll have a great day, and I'll see everybody tomorrow.